Welcome to this lecture. I hope your seatbelts are still fastened and tight. Today's lecture, we're going to be looking at Babylon the Harlot. I started off in the beginning, in the very first lecture, telling you that there are only two churches in the world, and these are symbolized as Babylon the Harlot and the pure and defiled woman. Well, in this lecture, we're going to be looking at Babylon and the constructs of Babylon. Before we go any further, I would want to read you a text, a statement that we read in 2 lectures ago. Heavy on the heart. Truth is independent of opinion. By its very definition, truth is intolerant of error, every aspect petitioning the conscience for acknowledgement. The individual, however, holds the key to admission or rejection. So you and I hold the key to either accepting this information or rejecting it. Let me remind you of the reasons why prophecy was given to us. This lecture is a continuation or a subtopic of prophecy. Luke 1 verse 76 to 79. And thou, child, shalt be called the prophet of the highest, for thou shalt go before the face of the Lord to prepare his ways, to give knowledge of salvation unto his people by the remission of their sins, through the tender mercies of our God, whereby the dayspring from on high hath visited us, to give light to them that sit in darkness and in the shadow of death, to guide our feet into the way of peace. This is the reason, or these are the reasons why prophecy has been given to us. Now let's get into the main topic of discussion today. Revelation chapter 17 verse 1 to 6. And there came one of the 7 angels which held the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will shew unto thee the judgment of the great whore, that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have made drunk with the wine of our fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. So this is a vision that John was shown while he was on the Isle of Patmos. So let's look at the characteristics of Babylon. Number 1, she sits upon many waters. Revelation chapter 17 verse 1. And there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will shew unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. 2, she sits on the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns, with blasphemy, or with names of blasphemy. Revelation chapter 17 verse 3. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, and having 7 heads and 10 horns. Number 3. Woman is arrayed in purple and scarlet color, decked with gold and precious stones and pearls. Revelation chapter 17 verse 4. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. Number 4. She is the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Revelation chapter 17 verse 5. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Number 5. Drunken with the blood of the saints and martyrs of the earth. Revelation chapter 17 verse 6. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. Number 6. Sits on 7 mountains. In verse 9 of chapter 17, and here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. Number 7. The woman is a great city which reigns over the kings of the earth. In verse 18 of chapter 17. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. We've been given 7 biblical characteristics of Babylon. Now, before we can identify who this Babylon is with the characteristics that we've been given, why does the Bible call this woman a great whore? We know the Bible symbolizes the church as a woman, the bride of Christ. So why does the Bible say she's a great whore? Who is a whore in the Bible? Not physically, but in terms of the spiritual. So let's read Judges 2 verse 17. And yet they would not hearken unto the judges, but they went a whoring after other gods, and bowed themselves unto them. They turned quickly out of the way which their fathers walked in, obeying the commandments of the Lord, but they did not so. Leviticus 17 verse 7. And they shall no more offer the sacrifices unto devils, after whom they have gone a whoring. This shall be a statute forever unto them throughout their generations. So a whore or a harlot is one who goes after many gods, just as a prostitute is referred to as a whore because she goes out with many men. Why does the Bible call this woman a great whore? It's because she goes after many gods, and we will be able to see that. Unfortunately, I say unfortunately, because this woman or this church is seen as one of the most celebrated churches in the world and one of the most influential churches in the world. Unfortunately, Babylon is the Roman Catholic Church. Let us prove if the Bible is pointing to the Roman Catholic Church, whether it's rightly or falsely pointing at it. So we're going to check with the characteristics. Number 1, we said she sits upon many waters. What are waters in prophecy? What are waters? Well, we do not have to guess because the Bible has the answers. We just need to ask the Bible. Revelation chapter 17 verse 15. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the horse sitteth, are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. So waters in Bible prophecy is a symbol or is symbolic of nations, multitudes, and many tongues. As Wikipedia tells us, Roman Catholic Church has the largest membership of about 1.329 billion people, comprising of 50.1% of Christianity, from the total membership in Christianity of about 2.51 billion people. First characteristic, correct. Second, sits on the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns with the names of blasphemy. And who is this beast with 7 heads and 10 horns and names of blasphemy? Let's read it. Revelation chapter 13 verse 1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the names of blasphemy. This is the Antichrist beast that we have identified as the papacy. Characteristic number 3. This woman is arrayed in purple and scarlet color, decked with gold and precious stones and pearls. As you can see there, there are 2 major colors in the Roman Catholic Church, scarlet and purple. White and black are just used as accompanying colors, but the major colors are scarlet and purple. Whether it's at the funeral of Pope John Paul II there, as you can see, scarlet and purple, decked with gold, pearls, and precious stones. As you can see, the tiaras there, the precious stones and gold. Characteristic number 4. She is the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Well, we just have to ask the beast and say, Mr. Beast, tell us. Pope Leo XIII wrote, "The Roman Church, mother and mistress of all churches." The Independent writes, "Other churches are no sisters of ours. The Vatican insists." Cardinal Ratzinger, who later on became Pope Benedict, writes, "It must be always clear that the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Universal Church is not a sister, but the mother of all the churches." So spiritually, we have read that a whore goes after other gods. So is it possible that the Roman Catholic Church goes or wanders after many gods? Well, let's read what they have to say. Externals of the Catholic Church, page 156. It is interesting to note how often our church has availed herself of practices which were in common use among pagans. Thus it is true, in a certain sense, that some Catholic rites and ceremonies are a reproduction of the pagan creeds. Their own document, church document, is acknowledging that their rites that they do, their practices, is a reproduction of paganism. Catholic Encyclopedia, page 246. We must not forget that most of these adjuncts to worship, like music, lights, perfumes, ablutions, floral decorations, canopies, fans, screens, bells, vestments, etc., were not identified with any idolatrous cult in particular, but they were common to almost all cults. The Gospel Standard writes that Rome's pagan altars, pagan priests, pagan robes, pagan superstitions, and pagan deities should pass for so many centuries under Christian names is altogether a mystery. How mysterious, too, is her influence. She has but to speak, and she is at once obeyed. No place, no soul is free from her influence. In the cabinet of princes, she can paralyze parliaments, break or elude laws, agitate kingdoms, sow discord among populations. Mysterious are her weapons. There is another confirmation of the pagan items that are found in the Catholic Church. So what are some of the pagan items that you can find? Number 1, there's mother and child, represented as Mary and Jesus. In Isis Unveiled, page 41, Helena Petrovna Blavatsky writes, Cyril, the bishop of Alexandria, openly embraced the cause of Isis, the Egyptian goddess, and had anthropomorphized her into Mary, the mother of God, and the Trinitarian controversy had taken place. Mankind causes the daily and hourly the fall and sin of a celestial virgin, which thus becomes the mother of gods and devils at one and the same time. For she is the ever-loving, beneficent deity to all those who stir her soul and heart. So who's Helena Petrovna Blavatsky? Wikipedia tells us that She was a controversial Russian occultist philosopher and author who co-founded the Theosophical Society in 1875. Well, we just have to ask the top ranking members of the occult world, and we have such names as Madame Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, we have names like Alice A. Bailey, we have names like Albert Pike. These people know, or these are the founders and the philosophers of the occult world, and they will tell us the real meaning of these things. Morals and Dogma, Albert Pike writes, "It is the statue of Olympian Jove worshipped as the Father. In the Christian church that was a pagan temple, it is the statue of Venus become the Virgin Mary." So the statue of Venus becomes or is the statue of Mary. We will be able to see that. And Albert Pike, who is Albert Pike? Albert Pike has many titles as seen there: Sovereign Grand Commander of the Supreme Council of the 33rd Degree, Mother Council of the World, Supreme Pontiff of Universal Freemasonry, Scholar, Student of Ancient Languages, and Occult Philosopher. He completely rewrote the degrees of the Scottish Rite into their present form. This work is explained in his book Morals and Dogma of the Ancient and Accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, prepared for the Supreme Council of the 33rd Degree. His position in Masonry was and is today unparalleled, not only in the United States but throughout the world. So if you want to know what's happening in Freemasonry, you just go to Albert Pike and he'll tell you what is really going on. Amazing Discoveries tells us the pagan system of sun worship had three main aspects: the Father, Mother, and the Son. In ancient Chaldean times, these were the god Bel or Merodach, Ninus the sun, who was also worshipped as Tammuz, and the female goddess Rhea, who was also worshipped as Ishtar, Astat, or Beltis. She was also referred to as the Queen of Heaven and the Wrath Subduer. Mary has received these same names in Catholicism. In Egypt, the mother and child were worshipped as Isis and Osiris or Horus. In India as Isis and Iswara. In China and Japan as the mother goddess Shingmu with child. In Greece as Ceres or Irene and Platus. In Rome as Fortuna and Jupiter Pure, or Venus and Adonis, and in Scandinavia as Frigga and Bauda. The mother and child were worshipped in Babylon as Ishtar and Tammuz, and in Phoenicia as Ashtaroth and Bel. Moreover, the child was worshipped as both husband and son of the mother goddess. As in the book Isis Unveiled, there you see the Egyptian litany of Our Lady, Isis Virgin, the different many names of the Virgin, Isis, and interestingly to note that they are also the same names that are found that the Catholic uses as a litany of Our Lady of Loreto, the Virgin. We find names like Holy Mary, Mother of Divine Grace, Mother of God, Mother of Christ, Virgin of Virgins, and many of the names that apply to Isis. There you can see the Catholicism, we have mother and child. Egypt, mother and child. India, mother and child. China, mother and child, as you can see in those statues. The second pagan thing that we can find in Catholicism is idols in the Vatican. We find that tangible form of Zeus or Jupiter worship exists. To this present day, it is commonly known and also told by the guides of the Vatican that the bronze statue of St. Peter in St. Peter's in Rome is the ancient pagan image of Jupiter, which was adopted, canonized, and sanctified. This same image is being reverenced, and he is one Victor regularly kissed at certain ceremonies. As you can see there, that's an image of Jupiter. You can notice that he has two hands that are pointing upwards. Well, they say that this is a representation of Apostle Peter, but actually it points to Simon Magus. That's another story. Statues of Mary or idols there, as you can see. The obelisk. Roman Catholicism, the pagan connection, page 11. The obelisk has been part of pagan worship from the days of antiquity. Obelisks have played a large part in the worship of Egypt. Originally, the obelisk was associated with sun worship. Pagans believed that the obelisk also had a sexual significance, realizing that through sexual union, life was produced. The phallus was considered, along with the sun, a symbol of life. In order for the obelisk to carry out its intended symbolism, it was placed upright, erect. Thus, the obelisk pointed up towards the sun. The obelisk was often placed at the entrance of pagan temples. The Illustrated Dictionary of Symbols tells us of the several functions of the pillar or obelisk. Among early peoples, the Egyptian obelisk was worshipped as the dwelling place of the sun god. So not only does it represent a significance of sexuality, where the obelisk points to the sun as the phallus or the male sex organ, and the sun pointing towards the phallus or the obelisk, pointing to some form of sexual worship. It is also signifying or signified a dwelling place of the sun god. There you can see that's the obelisk of the Vatican. Now, in front of a pagan temple, here is an image of the obelisk of the pagan Luxor temple. As you can see, you see the similarities, brothers and sisters. There is always an obelisk at the entrance of pagan temples. There you can see the Pope being carried just as the pharaohs of the Egyptian kings. The pharaohs were carried with men on the sedia gestatoria, a mobile throne that is carried by 12 footmen. You can also notice that 12 footmen, 12 is a number that represents the apostles of Jesus Christ, 12 around 1. The bent cross. The Roman Catholic Church author Piers Compton says, this bent crucifix is a sinister symbol used by Satanists in the 6th century that had been revived at the time of Vatican II. This was a bent or broken cross on which was displayed a repulsive and distorted figure of Christ, which the black magicians and sorcerers of the Middle Ages had made use of to represent the biblical term mark of the beast. Yet, not only Pope VI, but his successors, the two John Pauls, carried that object and held it up to be revered by crowds who had not the slightest idea that it stood for Antichrist. There you can see the popes holding on and revering the bent cross, or which symbolized mark of the beast or Antichrist, and people would bow innocently to this image or to this distorted, repulsive figure that they have not a slightest clue or single idea. The inverted cross. The inverted cross has been a satanic symbol since the 7th century. The various inverted crosses shown are signs of belonging to satanic worship. At satanic meetings, they are used in various ways to desecrate or mock Jesus. The Kingdom of Satan, Professor J.S. Malan writes, the inverted cross is not broken, but turned upside down. It indicates the rejection of Jesus Christ and contempt for the gospel of salvation. People who are sometimes sacrificed to Satan on Black Sabbath are crucified upside down. The Texas Occult Dictionary writes, the inverted cross is a blasphemy or mockery of the Christian cross. Exposing Satanism, the upside-down cross symbolizes mockery and rejection of Jesus. Necklaces are worn by many Satanists. It can be seen on rock singers and their album covers. There you have a visit that the Pope had a visit. As you can see there, the Pope visits holy site of Sermon on the Mount. Can you notice the inverted cross on his throne or on his chair, and the inverted cross behind the nuns there? What is the Pope doing with the inverted cross? Was it a mistake? Well, I don't know. The Baal Hadad. This is a sun deity or sun symbol. So below you can see the Baal Hadad from ancient Egyptians, from ancient pagan Egypt. Morals and Dogma, Albert Park writes, the crescent and disk combined always represent the conjunctive sun and moon. There you can see it's a representation of a sun symbol, where you have the sun or the moon, the crescent moon, and then you have the star inside. The star or the sun representing the sun. Can you see that there are similarities between the Roman Catholic monstrances and the Baal Hadad? If you look inside those monstrances or the Holy Communion chalices, you'll be able to see the crescent moon or the half moon, and there you can see the Pope holding the Eucharist as he places it inside the monstrance, completing or making the Baal Hadad. He then lifts up the monstrance and the whole congregation bows to it, while the innocent members do not know what they are bowing down, fulfilling some form of sun worship. There is a comparison of the ancient Egyptian sun or Baal Hadad and the Catholic monstrance. There are the Catholic monstrances with the sun, or with the sun illuminating with rays around it, and the Pope holds it, holding it up, and the priests there bowing down to it. I showed you this image in the previous lecture of a sun there inside or on the seat of the Pope in the Vatican in St. Basilica. The other thing we can find is the prayer beads. Prayer beads were commonly buried with pharaohs of Egypt. Pagan cults of the East also used the prayer beads in their religious practices. Wikipedia tells us that all pagan religions have or use similar items, which are interestingly found in Catholicism. There you have a Catholic rosary, you have the pagan prayer beads there, and we have the ancient Mesopotamian prayer bead with those people that it describes that person holding the prayer bead. Interesting that you find prayer beads in the Catholic Church. The mitre of the Pope. Manners and customs of the pagans. The Babylonians believed that a being, part man and part fish, emerged from the Erythraean Sea and appeared in Babylonia in the early days of its history. Representation of this fish god have been found among the sculptures of Nineveh. The Philistine Dagon was of a similar character. Babylonian and Nineveh, page 343. In their veneration and worship of Dagon, the high priest of paganism would actually put on a garment that was created from a huge fish. The head of the fish formed a mitre, while its scaly fan-like tail fell as a cloak behind, leaving the human limbs and feet exposed. So as a high priest of Dagon, the fish god, he put on this certain type of cloth that was made from fish, and it covered part of his upper body, and then left the hands and the legs exposed. The Wine of Babylon tells us on page 9, the most prominent form of worship in Babylon was dedicated to Dagon, later known as Archithis, or the fish. In Chaldean times, the head of the church was the representative of Dagon. He was considered to be infallible and was addressed as Your Holiness. Nations subdued by Babylon had to kiss the ring and sleeper of the Babylonian god king. The same powers and the titles are claimed to this day by the Pope. Moreover, the vestments of paganism, the fish mitre, and robes of the priests of Dagon are worn by the Catholic bishops, cardinals, and popes. There we have an illustration of the high priest of Dagon. You can notice that the mouth there is open, opened mouth, and the hands are exposed. So it's interesting to note that we also find the mitre of Dagon, the sun god or the fish god, inside Catholicism. As you can see on the images there, the mitre forms the heart or the top, forms a half opened fish, and the two clocks that fall like fan-like tails that fall as clock behind the mitre. There we have the kissing the ring of the infallible Pope, whether it's the Archbishop Rowan, with whether it's Laura Bush, Chavez, all these people kissing the ring, just as the people that were subdued by Babylon had to kiss the ring of the god king of Babylon. We also see the high priest in an illustration sprinkling some kind of holy water. That's a stone carving from Assyria in a Pergamum museum in East Berlin. You can note that the priest dressed as half man and half fish. Interesting also to see another high priest sprinkling holy anointed water. The Encyclopedia of Freemasonry tells us the all-seeing eye is an important symbol of the Supreme Being, borrowed by the Freemasons from the nations of antiquity. On the same principle, the Egyptians represented Osiris, their chief deity, by the symbol of an open eye, and placed the hieroglyphic of him in all their temples. America's Secret Destiny says, to the ancient Egyptian, the right eye symbolized the sun and the left eye the moon. So it doesn't matter whether it's a right eye or it's a left eye. There we have a priest. Look at him. Look behind the priest, a Catholic priest. There is an all-seeing eye in the triangle there, the eye of Osiris. A pulpit in Paris, a Masonic triangle and the all-seeing eye inside. A confessional in the Cathedral of Milano in Italy, the Masonic triangle with the sun illuminating light and the all-seeing eye inside. We are told of a certain type of Trinity that is found in and which is found inscribed in the temples. As you can see, letters IHS are found written in walls or in the roofs, and to us, the lay people, they tell us that it means, or it stands for, in his service. If it means in his service, in God's service, what is IHS doing in a Masonic temple, on the windows of a Masonic temple, as you can see there? IHS simply stands for Isis, Horus, and Set, the Egyptian gods. And to us, the lay people, they call us the cattle they give us in his service. Former Satanists have unanimously told me that there is absolutely no difference between a Catholic priest saying a rote script or the Mass before the altar using the candles, the prayer beads, the holy water, and other implements, and a witch saying a rote ritual before the altar using exactly the same implements that carry exactly the same meaning. Roman Catholicism, said in Latin, is powerful white magic witchcraft. There you have it. In Latin, Roman Catholicism means white magic witchcraft. And exactly as that, the Bible says in Revelation chapter 18, verse 21 and 23. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone, and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. And the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. Look at that, brothers and sisters. The Bible says this woman practices witchcraft. She is a sorcerer by her sorceries. Exact in alignment with the Bible. Albert Pike writes, the Templars were gravely accused of spitting upon Christ and denying God at their receptions, of gross obscenities, conversations with female devils, and the worship of a monstrous idol. The Templars, like all other secret orders and associations, had two doctrines, one concealed and reserved for the masters, which was Johannism, the other public, which was the Roman Catholic. So the Templars had two systems. The insider, known to the initiates, was Johannism, while to the outsider it was known as Roman Catholicism. And today we do not know what Johannism is, but we know about Catholicism, that it is a religion. And this is the high person in Freemasonry, whose position is unparalleled. The Great Controversy, page 381, Ellen White writes, the term Babylon is described from Babel and signifies confusion. It is employed in Scripture to designate the various forms of false or apostate religion. By holding unto the same great erroneous doctrines of the Catholic Church, people are trapped in Babylon. So what is the wine of Babylon? The wine of Babylon, these are the false teachings or the false doctrines of the Roman Catholic Church that are found spread all across not just Christianity, but the different religions of the world. So let us ask a question. What are some of the errors found in the Roman Catholic Church doctrines? Well, there I just pointed out 13 errors, that there are many errors. So we can just for now stick to those 13. 1. Oracular confession, infant baptism, penance, Peter the rock and head of the church, immortality of the soul, purgatory and eternal torment in hell, secret rapture, transubstantiation and the Eucharist, Mary the co-mediatrix, remission of sin by priest or minister, pagan feasts, Easter, Christmas, teaching of the changed commandments, and the skipping of the Sunday sacredness. With these errors, she has made the world drink of her fornication. Let's read what Revelation chapter 13 verse 3 to 4 tells us. All the world wandered after the beast. How much? All the world. And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast, and they worshipped the beast. So the Bible tells us that all the world wandered after the beast. Is it possible that all the world has wandered after the beast, the papacy? Well, let's find out. Satan sets up a religion with two elements. That's the esoteric and the exoteric side. The exoteric side is the openly publicized. These are openly publicized beliefs that are given to the masses of followers and members of the ground. While the esoteric, these are the hidden meanings. Only few people at the top know of these teachings. And we'll be able to see what are some of the exoteric and the esoteric teachings that are found in different religions. So why does Satan do this? Why does he set up his religion in two systems? Well, he does that so that worship is channeled to him secretly without making the members feel uncomfortable. If the devil, Satan, was to come to you right now, standing with a pitchfork, and tells you to worship him, I guess and I believe that you would refuse worshiping the beast or worshiping Satan. So he comes in a sweet, comfortable way that you are so comfortable that you do not even realize that you are worshiping Satan or you are worshiping the devil. So let's get a link. Let's get a link between Roman Catholicism and the different religions of the world. Christianity, we know that with just one error or one erroneous error found in the doctrine of keeping Sunday holy, by that alone, most, if not 99% of Christianity bows down to the command of the Catholic Church, as we have seen in the previous two studies. So is there a link between Islam and Roman Catholic Church? Well, let's find out. Muhammad married Khadija, who was a Roman Catholic, when he was 25 and she was 40. Her cousin Waraka was also a Roman Catholic Meccan. Muhammad Mustafa was born in 570 AD and died in 632 AD. He fled to Medina in 622 AD after Khadija's death. He marched on Mecca in 630 AD, 2 years before he died, and 4 years before Omar became Caliph. The Quran was compiled in 650 AD. Islam Unveiled tells us, Allah, he was the moon god. He married the sun goddess. Together they produced 3 goddesses who were called the daughters of Allah. These 3 goddesses were called Harlot, Al-Uzza, and Manat. The Encyclopedia of Religion mentions that Allah is a pre-Islamic name corresponding to the Babylonian Bel. There we have it. Not just is the wife of Muhammad, the prophet of Islam, a Catholic, but a cousin also. We have also read that Allah is the corresponding name to the Babylonian sun god Bel. So James Shaw, at his 33rd initiation, James Shaw writes or brings out an account of his initiation. Let's read it together. The Deadly Deception. With the Quran on the altar, we sealed our solemn oath in the name of Allah, the God of Arab, Muslim, and Mohammedan, the God of our fathers. James continues, every shriner kneeling before the Quran takes this oath in the name of Allah and acknowledges this pagan god of vengeance as his own, the God of our fathers, and in the ritual he acknowledges Islam, the declared blood enemy of Christianity, as a one true path. Whoso seeketh Islam earnestly seeks true direction. I have a question for you. Why or what is a holy book, the Quran, doing at the initiation into a cult? Well, it's because it is not a holy book in the first place, and the second reason is that it is one of the founding documents that is used by these people. The symbol for Islam is the Baw Hadad, as you can see right on top of that mosque, symbolized as a crescent moon and the star inside, the star representing the moon. And we read from Morals and Dogma, Albert Pike, that when you say the crescent and disk combined always represent the conjunctive sun and moon. I have a question for you. Why is the Islamic Abu el-Hagag mosque built on the pagan Luxor temple? There you have the mosque built on the Luxor pagan temple. Why? Because paganism and Islam to the insider, to the top members, it's the same thing. The members, the common members on the ground do not know a thing, but the inner initiates, the inner members, the higher members, know that paganism and Islam, it's one and the same thing. There you see the Pope kissing the Quran, and also notice as he is with the Patriarch Raphael, one of Iraq, is kissing the Quran May 14, 1999. Also notice the Pope bowing down on Time, in front of Time magazine there. The Pope confronts Islam as he bows down, leaning to the Bawa Haddad. Why does the Pope, before we say why does the Pope kiss the Quran, let us ask why or what does the Quran say about Jesus Christ? We are reading the Quran, but not divine. Christ was altogether saved from the indignity of the cross, and as if by a miracle of likeness, someone else of the same features was crucified by the Jews under illusion. Verse 157 continues, and they, the Jews, said in boast, we killed Jesus Christ, the son of Mary, the apostle of God, in the knowledge of God. But they killed him not, nor crucified him, but it was made to appear to them for a surety they killed him not. God is indignant, if Christ is believed to be God himself. And those verses there, to say nothing of Godship, Christ is not even the Son of God. Wow! Let's pick out two characteristics that the Quran points about Jesus Christ. Number one, it says, it brings out a major critical point that Christ was not crucified. It was made to, or it seemed as if he was crucified, but he was not. And number two, it denies that Christ is God. So, question, why does the Pope kiss a book that denounces Christ as God and that denounces that Christ was crucified? Well, because in the insider Muslim or Islam and the inside Catholicism, it's one and the same thing. Acts 4 verse 10 to 12. Be it known unto you all, and to all the people of Israel, that by the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, whom ye crucified, whom God raised from the dead, even by him doth this man stand here before you whole. This is the stone which was set at naught of you builders, which is become the head of the corner. Neither is there salvation in any other, for there is none other name under heaven given among men whereby we must be saved. 1 John chapter 2 verse 22. Who is a liar but he that denieth that that Jesus is the Christ? He is Antichrist, that denieth the Father and the Son. If you deny Jesus Christ, that is the spirit of Antichrist. Europe or NBC News writes, Dutch bishop writing, call God Allah to ease relations. Amsterdam, a Roman Catholic bishop in the Netherlands has proposed people of all faiths refer to God as Allah to foster understanding, stoking an already heated debate on religious tolerance in a country with 1 million Muslims. Bishop Tini Muskens from the Southern Diocese of Breda told Dutch television on Monday that God did not mind what he was named, and that in Indonesia, where Muskens spent 8 years, priests use the word Allah while celebrating Mass. Allah is a very beautiful word for God. Shouldn't we all say that from now on we will name God Allah? What does God care what we call him? It is our problem. Just let us read that last sentence or last statement. What does God care what we call him? It is our problem. So in short, the Dutch bishop here is saying God does not care whatever you call him, it is our problem. That is satanic language, brothers and sisters. In a letter addressing to the Muslims, John Paul writes, I close my greeting to you with the words, "We believe in and confess one God," admittedly in a different way, and daily praise and venerate Him, the Creator of the world and the ruler of this world. Well, we have recognized by now that Allah is Satan, is a synonym for the Babylonian god Bel. So why does the Pope say we believe and confess in the same God? Well, I don't believe in the same God as the Muslims do. Allah and God are two different beings. So let us ask, if the Pope says the ruler of this world, let us ask the Bible who the ruler of this world is. John 14 verse 30. Hereafter I will not talk much with you, for the prince of this world cometh and hath nothing in me. 2 Corinthians 4 verse 4. But if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost, in whom the God of this world hath blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Christ, who is the image of God, should shine unto them. Ephesians 6 verse 12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. There the Bible clearly tells us that there's a prince of this world, and that is the devil, Satan. And that's why in the Lord's Prayer we say, "Our Father which art in heaven." Brothers and sisters, the devil is the ruler of this world. And for the Pope to say he believes in the same God as a Muslim, well, maybe he believes. Yes, he believes. I agree with him when he says he believes in the same God as a Muslim do. When you look at this image, that's the statue of Mary. Wikipedia tells us the shrine of Our Lady of Lebanon, the shrine of Our Lady Lebanon draws millions of faithful, both Christians and Muslims, from all over the world. The Lebanese Christians, as well as the Druze and Muslims, have a special devotion to Mary, Mother of Jesus. Question: Muslims have also are drawn to a special devotion to Mary. Why Muslims? Why Muslims believe in Mary, the Mother of God? Well, it's because it doesn't make any difference if you are an insider Muslim and an insider Catholic, you are worshipping to the same God. And we have read time and time again that Mary is the mother, just as Madame Helena Petrovna Blavatsky writes, that Mary it's the same as the mother of devils and gods at one and the same time. And that's why we can see on this article, Queen of Rome and Queen of Islam, Queen of all. The Global Watch Weekly puts Mary there, the Olympic Queen, while the Catholic Mary is reaching out to Islam and has a dominant role in Eastern religion. So we have established a link, just as we see the Catholic and Islam. Both venerates Mary. The Queen dedicates Surah Maryam, that's Surah 19 with 98 ayat to Mary. Pope John Paul II has officially declared Allah to be the God of the Bible. Both Islam and Catholicism have added to and subtracted from the Bible. Both deny the sufficiency of the sacrificial atonement or the crucifixion and salvation by grace. Both teach that salvation is secured by works or self-effort. Both cults arise from Babylon. The Encyclopedia of Religion tells us that Allah is a pre-Islamic name corresponding to the Babylonian Bel. Pilgrims, they make pilgrimage to holy cities. Catholics make pilgrimage to Fatima, and Islam makes pilgrimage to Mecca. There we have the link. We have established that there's a link between Catholicism and Islam. What about Hinduism? Let's find out. Hindus worship the nameless and formless supreme reality. Take note of that. Brahm, by various names and forms, these different aspects of one reality are symbolized by the many gods and goddesses of Hinduism. Hinduism, page 145, says, in no other religion does the Supreme Being, there we have it again, the Supreme Being, wear so many masks and invite worship in so many different forms as the eternal religion of Hinduism. The Freemasons also tell us that the all-seeing eye is an important symbol of the Supreme Being. So who is this Supreme Being that we hear about? Well, let's see what the Hindus have to say about Isis. Hindu Litany of Our Lady Nari, the Virgin. We can see those names: Holy Nari, Mariama, Mother of Perpetual Fecundity, Mother of Incarnated God, Mother of Krishna, Eternal Virginity, Mother, Pure Essence, Akasa, Virgin Most Chaste, Most Mahamaratra, of the five virtues of elements, Virgin Trigana, Mirror of Supreme Conscious, Wise Mother, Virgin of the White Lotus, Womb of Gold, Celestial Light, Ditto, Queen of Heaven and of the Universe, Mother Soul of all beings. Well, these are the names, the same names that we see that apply to Mary, or the idols or the statues of Mary in Catholicism. The Infinite Grace writes, the Hindu Ishvara, the Supreme God, is not a jealous God, but because all gods are aspects of Him. There is God in heaven, and there is a small god with a small g, that's Satan. And that's why Hindu, the Infinite Grace of Images tells us that Hindu God, the Supreme Being, is not a jealous God. Well, let's read and see if God is a jealous God. Exodus 34 verse 14 says, for thou shalt worship no other God, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. So how many forces are there in the world? There's simply two, good and evil. And good comes in the form of God, and while the evil forces can come in both forms, as good and also in the form of evil. Satan comes in the bad evil force. Hindu wisdom continues, Lord Shiva, he is the totality of existence, male and female, light and dark, creation and destruction. Shiva is shown in various ways. Shiva, another well-known name of Yogiraja, the Lord of Yoga. If you want to know what is wrong with yoga, just ask who the Lord of Yoga is and it will tell you. So the Satanic Bible, Anton S. LaVey, who is the author of the Satanic Bible and the founder of the Church of Satan, tells us that there is no contradiction here, for Set is the Egyptian devil and Shiva is the Indian god of destruction. Both names, Set and Shiva, are also listed in the Satanic Bible as another name for Satan. There we have it. Isis Unveiled tells us, now we have but to remember that Siva or Shiva and the Palestinian Baal or Moloch and Satan are identical. So Shiva, the Hindu god, and Satan are identical. It's one and the same being. It's just different names that are used to call or to name this person. Alice A. Bailey, who founded the company, the Lucifer Publishing Company, and when she had, there was this hit because of the name that was put, Lucifer, she decided to change the name into Lucis Trust Publishing Company. She writes, Eye of God is Shiva or Siva, the destroyer. Remember, Shiva is the Indian god who is equivalent to Osiris. Shiva is also a synonym for Satan. There you have another confirmation. Hindu wisdom continues. Mitra or Surya, the sun god. The sun is the soul of all things in cosmos, moving and unmoving. For thousands of years, Hindus have understood the power of worshipping the sun. Worshipping Mitra helps to cure diseases, especially those related to the eyes, head, and heart. Surya worship also sharpens the memory and intellect, gives strength and energy, wards away enemies, and provides all-round prosperity. Wikipedia tells us, in Hinduism, Surya is the chief solar deity. He has hair and arms of gold. His chariot is pulled by 7 horses, which represent the 7 chakras. Surya Namaskara, or the sun salutation, is a well-known Hindu mode of worship of the devotional movements of Surya. It is done at the rising of the sun. The Shaivats and Vaishnavas often regard Surya as an aspect of Shiva and Vishnu respectively. Here we are, and we see that in Hinduism there are many names that point to the same god, Satan. Hindu wisdom continues. Om and the swastika symbols. The Om stands for the supreme reality. It is a symbol for what was, what is, and what shall be. There you have, and notice that it is a symbol of a sun there, the sun, and inside the Om, there we have the Bauhadad. In Hinduism, the swastika is believed to be derived either from the wheel symbolic reduced to 4 strokes and set at right angles to indicate the cardinal point. The archaeological discoveries in Egypt, Hisarlik site of Homer's Troy, in China, Greece, Scandinavia, Scythia, Mexico, and Peru have proved its widespread usage. The swastika symbol is supposed to be marked on the hood of the cobra and is often associated, now listen, with the Paleolithic culture of snake worshipping peoples, such as the Nagas. It is a symbol of good luck, is often found stamped on various objects or used as motif for broader designs or textiles. The rainy season is especially devoted to its honor, and Maharashtra, when women draw swastikas on floors and worship them. The swastika is an ancient symbol of sun worship. The saffron swastika writes, Indeed, the swastika is an obvious symbol of cosmic cyclicity, hence of endlessness or eternity. It suggests that the world never started and will never end, that every cycle is preceded and followed by more cycles. For Jains, even more than for the Hindus and Buddhists, the swastika is part of their identity. A hand with a swastika on it is the official symbol of Jainism, and that's why you can find the swastika was the major symbol of the Nazis or of Hitler. Here we see the swastika on the Jupiter temple in Baalbek in Lebanon. If you can notice the many swastikas that are put there, so I'll just mark a few of them that you can see. There you have the many swastikas, and I've just highlighted 2 of them. And it does not matter whether the swastika points this way or that way, it's still the same. Just as it doesn't matter whether it's the left eye or the right eye, it's still pointing to the same thing, sun worship. Wikipedia tells us of a garland. A japamala or mala is a string of prayer beads commonly used in Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, and Shinto for the spiritual practice known in Sanskrit as japa. They are similar to other forms of prayer beads used in various world religions and sometimes referred to in English as a rosary. Malas are used for keeping count. Listen, malas are used for keeping count while reciting, chanting, or mentally repeating a mantra or the name or names of a deity. So as one is praying, they pull the beads. As they are pulling the beads, they are chanting a mantra or a prayer or reciting something. Meanwhile, the Catholic tells us the word rosary comes from Latin and means a garland of roses. See, a garland again. The rose being one of the flowers used to symbolize the Virgin Mary. The rosary is a devotion in honor of the Virgin Mary. It consists of a set number of specific prayers. Just as one is praying, rolling the rosary, will be reciting a prayer, so does the Hindus, the Shintoists, and in Jainism, it's the same thing, paganism and Catholicism. And there you have an image of a japamala. And then let me put a Catholic rosary besides it. You see, brothers and sisters, whether you're a Hindu, you have a japamala, or a Catholic, you have a rosary, it's one and the same thing. In this image, the Pope receiving, being planted, a pagan priestess planting the Shiva mark on the forehead of the Pope John Paul II. Why should the Pope receive a Shiva mark from a pagan priestess? Well, because it's the same thing. Even if you are in Hinduism or you are in Catholicism, it's the same thing. So here is a link between Hinduism and Catholicism. Number 1, Hindus worship many gods and Catholics worship many saints, both with the burning of candles and incense before statues. Both use images, icons, music, and ritual prayers as means to create an atmosphere of music. Use prayer beads and chanting mantras while praying. Both have a physical center for worshippers' pilgrimages. We saw that in Islam as well. For Catholics, it is St. Peter's in Rome, while Hindus travel many miles to the Ganges River, or also known as the Holy River. Both believe in the immortality of the soul. Catholics see time in purgatory as necessary to perfection of character, while Hindus believe that reincarnation will give the necessary steps towards perfection. Both believe in the effectiveness of holy water in various cleansing rites. Both religions worship a mother goddess. Hindus worship the goddess Durga as the supreme mother, while Catholics see Mary as the supreme mother. It doesn't matter whether you are an insider, a Hindu, or a Catholic. It's all on the same thing. Let's go to Buddhism. Interesting to note that Hindu wisdom tells us this. Ganesha, the Lord of Beginnings. Lord Ganesha, popularly known and easily recognized as the elephant god, is one of the most important deities of the Hindu pantheon. Lord Ganesha is the son of Lord Shiva and goddess Parvati. He is also known as Ganesha Buddha in Japan. It continues. Ganesha, the Lord of the Beginnings. In the Tibetan Buddhism, the practice associated with the Ganesha as Buddhist tantric deity survives up this day. In Greece, Janus, the god in Greek mythology, has the head of an elephant. Sometimes he is depicted as a two-headed deity. As you can see there, he is represented as an elephant god. The Tibetan Buddhism and the Hindus, they worship the same elephant god, and there is a foot that the Buddha left before he was anthropomorphized into a god. Notice the sun symbols the swastika on the 5 toes. There we see one of the world's most celebrated person, or one of the world's most celebrated Catholic, Mother Teresa. Look at her. She's bowing down to Buddha. Mother Teresa in prayer at a Buddhist ceremony held on the occasion of the 25th anniversary of her order. Why is she bowing down to a god Buddha and to an idol? Well, Catholics bow down to idols. So it doesn't matter whether you're a Catholic or you are a Buddhist. As you can see there, John Paul II in the Buddhist temple in 1984 with his friend the Dalai Lama. So we have established the link between Buddhism and Catholicism. What about Judaism? Let us see. Judaism is represented with that six-pointed, six-pointed triangle known as the Star of David. Actually, this is a symbol of sun worship that comes from ancient times, as we are about to see. Freemasonry tells us that with the point upwards, the equilateral triangle stands for Shiva the Destroyer. This symbol is familiar to us, the Masons, in several degrees, notably the 30th degree. So this symbol points notable or symbolizes sun worship and is common to the Masons in the 30th degree. Hindus, as you can see there, that's the Hindu symbol for Surya Yantra. Interesting to note that the sun god Surya also has a symbol belonging to Judaism, or the Star of David. As you can see, there are many small triangles there making the Star of David, but when we join them, they make one big or two big Star of David. On the right there, we have an image, Star of David on the Lalesh Wars in Kurdistan. There on the emblem of the Theosophical Society, the society that was formed by Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, there you find the Star of David right in the middle. You also find the swastika there in the in that ring, with the snake, the Ouroboros, eating its own tail with the crown. We also see the symbol for the New Age movement on the left there. Can you notice the Star of David right inside that symbol? As you can see on the, whether it's on the tarot binding there, on the equipment or utensils that are used in card predictions, the Star of David. The Star of David on the Temple of Jupiter in Baalbek, Lebanon. You can see the Star of David inscribed right in the wall. So what is the Star of David? If it belongs to Judaism, what is it doing on occultic and pagan things or pagan practices? Well, the Star of David is an ancient symbol that symbolizes, or that is used for sun worship. That's why it's found in paganism. The Secret Doctrine, Blavatsky writes, the six-pointed star refers to the six forces or powers of nature, the six planes, principles, etc. All these, the upper and lower hierarchies include, emanate from the heavenly or celestial Virgin, the Great Mother in all religions, the androgen, the Sephira Adam Kadmon. There you have it. The Jews have rejected Jesus Christ. How have they rejected Jesus Christ? There's a curse that befalls on every man that reads Daniel chapter 9 verse 24 up to 27. Why? Because Daniel chapter 9 verse 24 to 27 points out that Jesus Christ is the Messiah, and now the Jews have rejected Jesus Christ. Let us read it. Coming from the rabbinic curse, the Talmudic law. May the bones of the hands and the bones of the fingers decay and decompose of him who turns the pages of the book of Daniel to find out the time of Daniel chapter 9 verse 24 to 27, and may his memory rot from off the face of the earth forever. There you have it. There's a curse that is placed to every man that reads Daniel chapter 9 verse 24 to 27 in the Jewish nation or in the Jewish system. So that's the curse that has been placed on every Jew who reads Daniel chapter 9 verse 24 to 27. In the other vein, Jesus Christ is telling the Jewish nation, Revelation chapter 22 verse 16. I, Jesus, have sent mine angel to testify unto you these things in the churches. I am the root and the offspring of David, and the bright and morning star. Jesus Christ is telling the Jewish nation today that they shouldn't wait for another Messiah, another coming Messiah in the future. It is Jesus Christ who has already come. Well, let's continue. Pope Benedict XVI takes part in a Jewish worship service, as you can see. That was on August 9, 2005 in Cologne Synagogue. We discussed in the previous study why he's seated in those 6 candles, and we studied what 6 represents. 6 is the number of sin, the number of man. Pope John Paul II praying at the Holy Western Wall of Judaism. Question: what would the Pope be bowing down to pray to the God of Judaism? The only answer that we can give is that there is no difference to the insiders in both Judaism and Catholicism, that they pray to the same God. The Talmud states that the deceased soul is aware of everything spoken in the presence of its immortality. So they believe that when a person dies, he is aware, and it records a debate if this is true until the burial or until the body decays. Shabbat 152b. It likewise states that the soul mourns over its own body during the entire week of mourning, Shiva, and that for the entire first year after death, the soul goes back and forth, alternating between heaven and its buried remains. Finally, at the conclusion of the year of mourning, the worthy find total peace in heaven. Rabbi Ari Kaplan explains what transpires as follows. After its death, the soul requires time to become oriented. It is unaccustomed to living without a body in a holy spiritual state. Thus, the soul is assumed to remain in the proximity of its body throughout the funeral procession, and funerals are observed with this in mind. They are accepting or the belief in the immortality of the soul. Pilgrimage to the Western Wall, as you can see there, the Jews' pilgrimage to their holy Western Wall. There we have established the link between Judaism and Catholicism. Both make pilgrimages, both believe in the immortality of the soul. We have identified and we have seen the link between Catholicism and Islam, Catholicism and Hinduism, Catholicism and Judaism, Catholicism and Buddhism. We've also seen Catholicism and Judaism, the 5 major religions, not mentioning Christianity, because Christianity, we can go in a whole lot of things. Could there be any link between Catholicism and primitive paganism? Well, let's find out. There in 1984, a mass in Papua New Guinea, Pope there with ancient pagan gods or shrines, whatever. The Pope receives a holy eagle feather from a Pima shaman in Phoenix, 1987. Pope John Paul II being blessed in a pagan American Indian ritual there, as you can see. The Pope greeting a voodoo high priest in Benin, 1993, as you can see. The Pope in the Pacific with the indigenous people and indigenous spirit worshippers there, as you can see. Not just does the Pope mingle with other religions, but he also mingles with pagan religions. Absolutely amazing. Let's look at the 5th characteristic: drunken with the blood of the saints and martyrs. The papacy killed more than 100 million people. History tells us that these people were declared or were called heretics, or coming from the word heresy or heresis, meaning a choice, because somebody decided to believe in whatever they believed in, the Bible in short. and they were called heretics because of rejecting the teachings of the Catholic Church. Regulations of the Synod of Toulouse concerning the Inquisition states, a priest and two or more lay people diligently search out heretics. If they discover a heretic, follower, patron, or protector of heretics, they must, taking precaution that they do not escape, quickly notify the bishop and mayor of the place of his bailiff, so they will be duly punished. The house where a heretic is found must be torn down, and the property must be confiscated. All members of the parish shall vow to the bishop under oath that they will preserve the Catholic faith and will persecute heretics according to their power. Catholic Church, Renaissance and Protestantism tells us, the Catholic Church is a respecter of conscience and of liberty. Nevertheless, when confronted by heresy, she has recourse to force, to corporal punishment, to torture. She lit in Italy the funeral powers of the Inquisition. Cardinal Bellarmine tells us, experience teaches that there is no other remedy for the evil but to punish heretics, that is, Protestants, to death. For the Roman Church proceeded gradually and tried every remedy. At first she merely excommunicated them, afterwards she added a fine, then she banished them, and finally she was constrained to put them to death. There we have it, accepting that they killed because people decided to believe in their own beliefs on the Bible. And as you can see there, history tells us that more than 100 million Christians were killed during the Middle Ages, as some were cast into burning furnaces, put on roasting wheels, bent to the stake. Some were even killed as a form of entertainment. Well, as you can see, the masses are watching and cheering. Beasts are thrown there that they will be killed. Headlines from Reuters: Pope asks pardon from Audensian Protestants for past persecution. Another one: Pope Francis apologizes to Roma for Catholic discrimination. There it says, Pope Francis has apologized to the Roma people on behalf of the Catholic Church during his visit to Romania. At a meeting with Roma people on the last day of his visit to the country, the pontiff asks for forgiveness for all those times in history when we have discriminated, mistreated, or looked askance at you. Roma people have faced persecution in Europe for centuries. Hundreds of thousands are thought to have been killed during the Holocaust. When I read this text, it seems and it appears as if I'm merely reading a history book, and yet it is recorded in Scripture. Let's read it together. Hebrews 11:36-38. And others had trial of cruel mockings and scourgings, yea, moreover of bonds and imprisonment. They were stoned, they were sawn asunder, were tempted, were slain with a sword. They wandered about in sheepskins and goatskins, being destitute, afflicted, tormented, of whom the world was not worthy. They wandered in deserts and in mountains and in dens and caves of the earth. Reading this text is as if I'm just reading a history book telling me of mere history events, and yet the Bible puts it plainly in prophecy. Let's look at the sixth characteristic. She sits on the 7 mountains, as we read in Revelation chapter 17 verse 9. The 7 mountains, what are the mountains? We have the Palatine Hill, Capitoline Hill, Quarino Hill, Firmino Hill, Esquiline Hill, Celian Hill, Aventine. The 7 hills of Rome, as Encyclopedia Britannica tells us. The 7th characteristic is the woman is a great city which reigns over the kings of the earth. We read that in Revelation chapter 17 verse 18. The papacy claims to rule the whole world. Vatican City tells us, from Encyclopedia tells us, ecclesiastical state, it's a seat of the Roman Catholic Church. The Most Holy Council tells us, we define that the Holy Apostolic See and the Roman pontiff holds the primacy over the whole world. Temporal power of the vicar of Jesus Christ tells us, the vicar of the incarnate Son of God, anointed high priest and supreme temporal ruler, the Pope, sat in his tribunal impartially to judge between nation and nation, between people and prince, between sovereign and subject. The keys of the blood of this blood has it on their cover. The pontifical professor Malachi puts it on his cover. Pope John Paul II versus Russia and the West for control of the New World Order. Pope Leo XIII once wrote, "Come therefore to this holy Jerusalem, a priestly and royal city, which the sacred seat of Peter has made the capital of the world. Truly it rules more widely by divine religion than by earthly dominion." Catholic National, July 1895. "Thou art a priest forever," says the ordained bishop. "He is no longer a man, a sinful child of Adam, but an alter Christus, another Christ. Forever a priest of the Most High, with power over the Almighty. The Pope is not only the representative of Jesus Christ, but he is Jesus Christ himself, hidden under the veil of flesh." Revelation chapter 17 verse 2 tells us of one of the characteristics of this woman, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. And today we can see the Pope mingling with kings and groups of the world. There you can see the Pope with Obama, Pope with Putin, Pope with Muslim diplomats. And please note that always the Pope is wearing white. He's wearing white always. Why white? What does white represent? White represents purity, pure. So in short, he's saying is a man without sin. He's pure. 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 13. "The church that is at Babylon, elected together with you, saluteth you, and so doth Marcus my son." In their own documents, they acknowledge that the church that Peter was pointing to, Babylon, was the Roman Catholic Church. Let's read it together. Faith of Our Fathers, page 87. "Babylon, from which Peter addresses his first epistle, that is 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 13, is understood by learned annotators, Protestant and Catholic, to refer to Rome." Wow. As you go in the Vatican, there is a tomb that is placed, the tomb of Pope Alexander the Eighth. That is the tomb or the tomb of the Pope. In front there are certain idols that have been constructed there, have been put there, and one is a woman that you can see the arrow pointing to. That woman is called La Verita, or meaning the truth. So she seems to be holding something on her chest. So what we are going to do is that we are going to zoom in and see what she's holding on the chest. So if we zoom in, we see that she is holding the sun. Notice the blue arrow pointing to the sun. She's holding or caressing as someone that is sort of holding a baby or hugging like that, holding the sun. And what she is stepping on, she is stepping at the whole world, the globe, the earth. Now we know, according to the Bible, that a woman is a representation or is a symbol of a church. So what they are telling us here is that this is a woman, a church that will take sun worship to the whole world. This is one of the most unspeakable things that can be put up there. Just as you can see when the Pope visited Yankee Stadium, the United States, in 2008. Notice the sun symbol, that is the large sun symbol that is put there, right up front there for everyone to see. You can see that, and notice the sun symbol with long extending rays. As Cardinal Caro writes, "We are now standing in the face of the greatest historical confrontation humanity has gone through. I do not think that wide circles of the American society or wide circles of the Christian community realizes fully. Indeed, I agree with him when he says that the large circles of Christianity don't realize that. We are now facing the final confrontation between the church and the anti-church, of the gospel versus the anti-gospel." Professor Malachi writes in his book, Keys of This Blood, "The smoke of Satan has entered the sanctuary." Catholic Archbishop E. Malingo wrote, when he was citing papal statements to back up his charge, "The devil in the Catholic Church is so protected now that he is like an animal protected by the governments." Catholic Archbishop Milingo continues, "Satanists at work in the Vatican. At the Fatima 2000 International Congress on World Peace held in Rome, to the question, 'Are there men of the Curia or men of the clergy who are followers of Satan?' Milingo responded, 'Certainly there are priests and bishops. I stop at this level of ecclesiastical hierarchy because I am an archbishop. Higher than this I cannot go.'" Windswept House, 1996, Malachi writes, "Martin vividly described a ceremony called the enthronement of the fallen archangel Lucifer, purportedly held in the St. Peter's Chapel in the Vatican. The enthronement was linked with concurrent satanic rites in the US on June 29, 1963. So Malachi puts a certain enthronement to ceremony that was going on, referring to a satanic enthronement that was taking place in the USA. A Woman Rides the Beast, page 420, writes to 421. "One finds every shade of New Age, occult, mystical belief inside the Roman Catholic Church. Catholic world had an entire issue affirming the New Age movement without a word of condemnation or correction in May-June 1989. Thousands of priests and nuns practice yoga and other forms of Hindu or Buddhist mysticism. Roman Catholic retreat centers around the world mix Christianity with Hinduism, Buddhism, and all manner of New Age beliefs and practices." Fatima Crusade, Malachi writes, "Anybody who is acquainted with the state of affairs in the Vatican in the last 35 years is well aware that the Prince of Darkness has had and still has surrogates in the court of St. Peter in Rome." Judy McLeod writes on the Canada Free Press, 100 Catholic priests have signed up for the world's first universal course in devil worship and Satanism, now officially underway in Rome. Incredible and so unbelievable to see or to read that. On this article, on this website, Pope says peace implies respect for religious symbols. An issue that was released on February 20, 2006. Benedict XVI is insisting that understanding between peoples implies respecting for their religious symbols. Continues, Catholic Church continues convinced that to foster peace and understanding between peoples and men, it is necessary and urgent that religions and their symbols be respected, the Pope said today. There is another confirmation, the Irish Times. Different religions must work together. Christians, Jews, and Muslims must work together to promote peace and teach respect for religions and their symbols, Pope Benedict said today. So he says symbols should be respected. Okay, let's now see what symbols mean, what meanings they carry. Albert Pike writes, The blue degree are but the outer court of portico of the temple. Part of the symbols are displayed there to the initiate, but he is intentionally misled by false interpretations. It is not intended that he shall understand them, but it is intended that he shall imagine he understands them. The true explication is reserved for the adepts, the princes of masonry. The whole body of the royal and sacerdotal art was hidden in the high degrees. He continues, Masonry, like all the religions, accepting that Masonry is a religion, all the mysteries, Hermeticism and alchemy conceals its secrets from all except the adepts and sages or the elect, and uses false explanations and misinterpretations of its symbols to mislead those who deserve only to be misled. So Masonry jealously conceals its secrets and intentionally leads conceited interpreters astray. Encyclopedia of Freemasonry tells us, those brethren whose delight to trace our emblems to an astronomical origin find in the compass a symbol of the sun and circular pivot representing the body of the luminary and the diverging legs his rays. Hardly any of the symbols of Freemasonry are more important in their significance or more extensive in their application than the sun. The sun, too, as the regenerator or reviver of all things, is the phallic worship which made a prominent part of the mysteries. Our Phallic Heritage, page 48, writes or states, thus, symbols came to have two meanings, the esoteric and the exoteric. We discussed that. The esoteric meaning was the true or original meaning understood by only a few and closely guarded by them. The exoteric meaning was the invented or modified explanation intended for the many. These sacred mysteries very often were merely continuous of the simpler forms of early sex worship carried on by a select few. There again, acknowledging that a few symbols had two meanings, had the esoteric and the exoteric meaning. The esoteric side, the esoteric was a hidden meaning and original meaning that was known to only a few members, while the exoteric symbols was the meaning that was invented, given intentionally to mislead the members of the people. So let's look at a pagan site in Lithuania. That's a pagan worship site in Svonji, Lithuania. You can notice that there are three things there. There's an obelisk, a phallus that is pointing upward, and then the one in the middle, that's the lever or the half moon, the crescent moon, and then we have this the sun on top of the lever there on the third pillar with its rays illuminating out. There is another image on the far right there, the same image, and I want to draw you to some to images that we have seen already, Catholic monstrances that are used for Holy Communion. As you can see there, notice the three things there. The first thing you notice is a cross. There's a cross there. And the second thing you notice is that there's a lever or the crescent moon that is inside the monstrance, the half moon, crescent moon. And the third thing that is there is that there is a sun around with its rays moving outwards around. I want to show you an emblem of the New Apostolic Church, and I want to put these three symbols together and notice if there is any difference in these. One, that's a Svonji, Lithuania symbols, crescent moon and the sun, the cross. The second in the middle, the Roman Catholic monstrance, you see there's a sun, the crescent moon inside and the cross on top, and the New Apostolic Church emblem there. You find there's a cross, and then there are sun rays there's a sun there and the rays, and the three waves that are beneath there representing the waver or the crescent moon. They tell us that represents the Trinity. Go onto the New Apostolic Church website and Google the New Apostolic emblem, and you see for yourself that it is written there, the sun's illuminating rays. One of the identifying characteristics of the New Apostolic Church is their uniform, black and white. And there is an image of the youths and various choir members with the late district apostle bands. There is another image that's looking over in a congregation during Pentecost, black and white. Now I'm going to put an image, and when you look at the layout of a Masonic temple, what is the color of the floor that you see there? Black and white squares. Those are the black and white squares on the floor. The Masons tell us the Masonic symbolism of color. In symbolic Masonry, we encounter reference 2 but 3, the alternating black and white of the Masonic pavement denoting the dual principle, the pure white of the lily and the blue. There is another symbol of the yin and yang. What is the color of the symbol? Black and white. So they tell us, in ancient Chinese philosophy, yin and yang, dark, bright, negative, positive, is a concept of dualism, describing how seemingly opposite or contrary forces may actually be complementary, interconnected, and interdependent in the natural world, and how they may give rise to each other as they interrelate to one another. Medicine and Illustrated History tells us Chinese philosophers stressed the importance of balance between good and evil. All pagan things have similar colors, that is black and white. And that's why you can see Baphomet, the images pointing to male and female. Look at the white moon that is pointing and the black moon that is pointing downwards. Brothers and sisters, when I saw the similarities of these symbols, it cut like a knife. And that's why the Pope says respecting each other's symbols, because it doesn't matter whether you are New Apostolic, whether you are Catholic, or whether you are pagan, it's one and the same things. I showed you this document earlier on. I showed you on this document earlier on. This is a document where the New Apostolic Church says they hold the position of Peter. Peter holds the position. The chief apostle holds the position of Peter, the rock, and the Catholic Church holds the position of Peter. So we have two positions here, two persons, both claiming to be taking the position of Peter. Who is going to bow to the other? Who is going to lead? Can you guess? Well, let's read this document. This is a document that was issued on 20th April 2005 by then the current chief apostle, then Richard Fair. It was an issue to Your Holiness Pope Benedict XVI. It reads, "Please accept my heartfelt congratulations and sincere best wishes on having been elected to lead the Roman Catholic Church. I also extend these wishes of blessing on behalf of all New Apostolic Christians. After the pontificate of Pope John Paul II, expectations on you will be especially high, not only from the ranks of Catholics around the globe, but also in the realm of society and politics. Hunger and poverty, injustice and war, illness, mental suffering remain widespread. Increasing secularization, changing ethical values, excessive materialism, etc." In the end, in the closing, he says, "I wish you God's help in your high task, as well as the strength to pursue your path undaunted for the benefit of the Church and its faithful. We new apostolic Christians will include you in our prayers. Brothers and sisters, it's so... I don't know what word I can use to describe this. There has never at a point was there a letter from a pope sending a letter to the new chief apostle acknowledging him of his new position. But now, here we find a chief apostle sending a letter to the pope congratulating him on his new position and say, we new apostolics will include you in our prayers, in your high task. Brothers and sisters, I got so crossed when I saw this document, but I had no option, I had no reason to get crossed for someone. The biggest threat to God's church is ecumenism. So let's define ecumenism from Britannica, Encyclopedia Britannica. Ecumenism, movement or tendency towards worldwide Christianity, unity or cooperation. The term of recent origin emphasizes what is viewed as a universality of the Christian faith and unity among churches. The ecumenical movement seeks to recover the apostolic sense of the early church for unity in diversity, and it confronts the frustrations, difficulties, ironies of the modern pluralistic world. It is a lively reassessment of the historical sources and destiny of what follows, perceived to be the one holy apostolic and Catholic and apostolic church of Jesus Christ. Ecumenism, where churches are going to come together to work together. So now let us ask, who is going to lead this ecumenical movement? June 1999, churches agree Pope has overall authority. The Pope was recognized as the overall authority in the Christian world by an Anglican and Roman Catholic commission yesterday, which described him as a gift to be received by all churches. Anglican Journal, June 1999. Text call Anglicans to accept Pope's primacy. The statement released May 12 at Lambeth Palace accepted that if a united church were created, it would be the Bishop of Rome who would exercise a universal primacy. The Commission further accepted that only the Pope had the moral authority to unite the Christian denominations. Can you see? The Pope is the only one with the moral authority. Why do they call it moral authority? Well, because it has his own moral law, the 10 Commandments, as we shall see. Friday Church News states, Lutheran leader says Pope might be a global spokesperson for all Christians. Ishmael Noko, General Secretary of the Lutheran World Fellowship, said in March that Lutherans can certainly look to the Pope as one of the spiritual leaders in the world today. He went on to say that the ecumenical movement requires Christians to look into the possibility that the Pope should become the global spokesperson for all Christians. Cardinal Caspar writes, Christ's church is to be found only in the Roman Catholic Church. Divisions have arisen all through church history, such as the Reformation led by Martin Luther in the 16th century. Church unity is not an accidental reality, but at the very center of God's will and the Catholic faith. The return of separated Christians and churches to the bosom of the Mother Catholic Church. You see, ecumenism is the coming together of churches of Christianity into one church, one holy apostolic see, as they say. And who is going to lead? The Pope is going to be the leader, is going to lead this ecumenical movement. Let's read what Fresno B writes. Whilst addressing the World Council of Churches in Geneva, Switzerland, Pope John Paul II declared, From the beginning of my ministry as Bishop of Rome, I have insisted that the engagement of the Catholic Church in the ecumenical movement is irreversible. 1999, Interfaith Meeting states, As reported in the Associated Press, with the Dalai Lama sitting by his right side, this October 1999 in Rome, the Pope presided at a special council of some 2,000 religious leaders of various faiths, sects and cults. 2nd April, BBC had published this. The Pope was the only one to be a world evangelist. He could visit all faiths, Islam and Judaism. He prepared the way for a religious new world order, as we say. And in the same meeting in 1999, interfaith meeting, true Bible believers denounced at Papal Conference says, the pontiff told the assembled Buddhist monks, Zoroastrians, priests, Catholic cardinals, Hindu gurus, American Indian shaman, Jewish rabbis, and ecumenical clergy that all must join in condemning the Christian fundamentalists who abuse speech and whose efforts at converting others incite hatred and violence. All present were in accord on two key points. 1. John Paul II was endorsed by consensus as the planet's chief spiritual guide and overseer. 2nd, religious fundamentalists who refuse to go along with the global ecumenical movement are to be silenced. They must be denounced as dangerous extremists full of hate. My brothers and sisters, those people who refuse to stand or to go along with the ecumenical movement, those people were told that they need to be silenced and be treated as dangerous extremists and fundamentalists. We shall see which group of people are being referred to in the last lecture in this series. Now let's read what Ephesians chapter 5 verse 13 tells us. Till we all come in the unity of the faith and of the knowledge of the Son of God, unto a perfect man, into the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ. Brothers and sisters, Jesus Christ, God, is calling us or wants unity. Now he does not want unity in error, just as there is unity in error in the ecumenical movement. Jesus Christ is calling us into unity in truth. What is wrong with the ecumenical movement? Number 1, it denounces Jesus Christ as God and places him equal to idols. Number 2, it is a unity in error. Jesus Christ and God, or God, want us to be unified in truth, not in error. And that's why there's this loud cry that God is calling us to come out of her. Watch this video and listen to the lyrics and see how people are bowing down and worshiping the dragon.
It was great.
A great feeling of
It was a great
excitement,
peace.
of peace,
Unity.
of love. Peace, love, and unity. Yes.
Unity.
Yes.
All nations will come and worship before you, Lord, and worship before you,
And all nations will bow down and worship before you, O Lord. And in another video, now this was in Italy, where the world religious leaders met or gathered for their interfaith meeting, and Notice what the Pope has to say.
I believe mankind took one giant step towards the uniting of all world religions into one at Assisi, Italy in 1986, where Pope John Paul II gathered all the leaders of the world's major religions to pray for peace. There were snake worshippers, fire worshippers, spiritists, animists, Protestants, Buddhists, Muslims, Hindus, North American witch doctors. As they walked to the microphone to pray, the Pope said they were all praying to the same God, and that their prayers were creating a spiritual energy that was bringing about a new climate of peace. John Paul II allowed his good friend, the Dalai Lama, to put the Buddha on the altar in St. Peter's Church in Assisi, and with his monks to have a Buddhist worship ceremony there, while Shintoists chanted and rang their bells outside. The final steps are being taken to form the prophesied world religion before our very...
Brothers and sisters, there are many innocent people in the Roman Catholic Church. There are many innocent people in the New Apostolic Church. There are many innocent people in the different world religions, in Islam, in Judaism, Hinduism, innocent and good loving people that know that they are worshiping God. But Jesus Christ, or God, loves each and every one of us. That's why John 3 verse 16 tells us that, "For God so loved the world and gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life." Jesus Christ loves everybody, but he hates the false systems in which people find themselves in. There's a saying that goes, you cannot choose where you are born from, but you can choose where to go. So, as an individual, you are born into a certain religious system, but as you grow up, you have the choice to make, either to continue following that religious system or to follow Jesus Christ in the truth. 2 Peter chapter 3 verse 9 tells us, "The Lord is not slack concerning his promise, as some men count slackness, but is long-suffering to usward, not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance." There is this call that God is giving to his people. Let's read this text together. Romans 1:1-6. "Paul, a servant of Jesus Christ, called to be an apostle, separated unto the gospel of God, among whom are ye also the called of Jesus Christ." Okay? 1 Corinthians 1 verse 9. "God is faithful, by whom ye were called into the fellowship of his Son Jesus Christ our Lord." 2 Corinthians 6 verse 17. "Wherefore come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you." 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 21. "For even hereunto were ye called, because Christ also suffered for us, leaving us an example that ye should follow his steps." There is this call that Jesus Christ and God is giving to us, and it becomes very loud in Revelation chapter 18. Let's read it together. "And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. And the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundances of her delicacies. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, that ye receive not of her plagues." There are only two options. It's either you are inside or you are out. And if you are out, well and good. If you are still inside, God is calling you to come out of her, to come out of Babylon. Babylon is not just symbolized as the Roman Catholic Church. Babylon and the wines of her fornication, representing the false teachings. Jesus Christ is calling his people from the different false teachings that are masquerading as doctrines. Exodus chapter 3 verse 10 tells us of this call that was there in the Old Testament, and this call is still there to us today. Let's read it together. Come now therefore, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. If Christ is calling us out of Babylon, he needs to tell us where to go. So let's read and hear where Christ is calling and telling us to go. John chapter 10 verse 14 through to 27. I am the good shepherd, and I know my sheep, and am known by my own. And other sheep I have which are not of this fold. Them also I must bring, and they will hear my voice. And there will be one flock and one shepherd. My sheep hear my voice. I know them, and they follow me. Brothers and sisters, if you are God's sheep, you will hear God's call. Just as Jesus Christ says, my sheep hear my voice when I call them. And there will be how many folds? There will be only one fold, one shepherd. Jesus Christ is calling us into his fold. So what is the fold, or how many folds are there? We have read that there is one. Let's get another confirmation. Ephesians 4 verse 4 to 6. There is one body and one spirit, even as ye are called in one hope of your calling, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is above all and through all and in you all. Jesus Christ is calling us to come out of Babylon, and he's calling us into his body. He's calling us into one body, one faith, one baptism, one Lord, one Spirit, one God and Father. That is where Jesus Christ is calling us into. We have looked at Babylon. We have identified that Babylon is the Roman Catholic Church. And the wines of Babylon are the false teachings, the false doctrines that are masquerading as doctrines today in Christianity. We will now look at the various wines that are masqueraded, that have gone into Christianity and are masquerading as doctrines in later lectures that will continue from now. We have looked at Babylon, and in the very last lecture we shall look at this pure and defiled woman. I started off by saying there are only two churches. There's either you are associated with a true church, which is the pure and defiled woman, or the false church, which is Babylon. God is calling us out from Babylon. God is calling us into truth. Let me end with this quote that I started with, heavy on the heart. Truth is independent of opinion. By its very definition, truth is intolerant of error, every aspect petitioning the conscience for acknowledgement. The individual, however, holds the key to admission or rejection. You and I hold the key to either accept this message or to reject this message. Thank you.
Konsakantwala Bantunamu Chetekela Debukisha Harwandi Amfwilile Pakalufali Oh Yeswakulantangilila Ine Kasuba no bushiku temwe fundelya kwe nokutumbululwa kwayo bwakwe